Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings, to the We Are Change news show, where we talk about the latest news, decipher the latest propaganda that's used against you to divide and conquer human civilization and start more global conflicts and wars all over the world. Welcome. Now, the biggest story today is, of course, how the commemorative coin with Kim Jong Un and Donald Trump symbolizing the North Korea summit has just been marked down and is selling at a discount. Predominantly because, no surprise, especially to you guys if you've been watching this news channel, the peace talks have been canceled by Donald Trump. But hey, now you can get this collectible coin for $24.95 plus shipping and handling through the White House gift shop. Of course, in all seriousness, Donald Trump today announced that he is canceling the summit meeting with the North Korean leader, Kim Jong Un, and at the same time saying that the U.S. military is ready if North Korea's Kim acts foolishly, threatening to use nuclear warfare on the North Korean peninsula. At the same time today, Defense Secretary Mattis sent out a nice message to graduating students of the Air Force Academy, pretty much telling them, prepare for war. And today's announcement has definitely left the world, especially the South Koreans, saying, what the fuck? As the South Korean president called the cancellation of this meeting, quote, very regrettable, and the administration ignored questions from the press whether South Korea was even notified of this decision by the United States beforehand. All of this while hours beforehand, North Korea dismantled their nuclear testing site. A very symbolic gesture, but according to many experts, very meaningless, since they believe that North Korea already has a nuclear device, and that's why North Korea was willing to come to the table to negotiate with a bigger bargaining chip. Now, of course, this decision has left many people speculating to why Donald Trump actually did this. Is this a tough negotiation technique, with Donald Trump opening the possibility of another summit happening later? But with neoconservatives and other warmongers cheering on, this decision is ultimately just a continuation of U.S. militarism and its expansion with North Korea as an excuse, which of course they can't leverage away because it would allow important military assets to be moved out of the area and away from China, which has its own geopolitical goals within the region. But of course, the official reason that Donald Trump canceled this meeting is because of, quote, open hostility. And well, I mean, what do you expect when you have Kim Jong Un for years now specifically saying he does not want to end up like Muammar Gaddafi and Libya, and now John Bolton coming to the head as these negotiations were happening and saying, we're going to use the Libyan model, and then saying it again, and also U.S. Vice President Mike Pence saying the same things as well. So congratulations to Mr. John Bolton, Trump's national security advisor, for getting his way. But ultimately, if you look at the bigger picture here, this is a big loss for diplomacy and peace, which specifically hurts the United States and its relationship with its allies, which some have even described as a disharmonious transatlantic relationship, which of course is further deteriorated not only with this latest move, but also with canceling the Iran nuclear deal. And if you look at the picture here, objectively, with the United States trying to squash all these players who are not playing ball with their bigger geopolitical picture, especially with the U.S. petrodollar, which is a huge significance to a lot of these decisions that you're seeing the U.S. government make, what is ultimately happening here is their attempt to crush these countries is ultimately making them stronger and creating more adversaries for the United States. And this threat to the United States is very real, as we're seeing an emerging China-Iran-Pakistan alliance foster itself directly against the United States, while the United States is still blindly pushing for the same goal that they have been trying to achieve for a number of years now, and that is regime change in Iran. And that is a very likely scenario with all the events that we are seeing unfolding, especially in the Middle East, with the main U.S. allies, Israel and Saudi Arabia, who are set to gain a lot from that key decision that the United States is pushing for, regime change in Iran, with even now the Israeli Security Cabinet holding its meetings in an underground bunker, while committing acts that of course enrage a lot of the Middle Eastern countries, like this latest move that happened yesterday where Israel decided to airstrike and hit a boat at a Gaza port that was prepared to meet a freedom flotilla, as well as actions like this where America is set to soon recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights region, which was previously territory of the Syrian government. And now, surprisingly, with very little mention or even investigation by the Western media, we are hearing reports of the U.S. coalition striking Syrian military positions just yesterday, which of course the U.S. military is denying, while the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that this was a U.S. coalition bombing that killed 12 Syrian government forces. And of course, when we get more confirmation, we will be reporting on this more. And the situation can't really be understated here, since again, China is openly supporting the Syrian government. The Russian military forces are fighting with the Syrian government along with Hezbollah and Iran, mainly against Kurds and Sunni Muslims, rebels that are of course connected with the United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. The lines have definitely been drawn here, with even an article coming out today with Putin considering his options as Israel and Iran face-off looks imminent. Now, the bigger picture here that a lot of Americans have to take into perspective here is that these global conflicts and these tensions that are rising in North Korea, in Iran, especially in Syria right now, they're a bigger excuse for militarism. And of course, endless spending, which is indebting this country, as we're seeing Congress overwhelmingly backing the plan to, quote, rebuild our military, which already is an outlandish military budget that is draining America's necessities and needs. And while all of that is happening, of course, expect oil prices to go up, not only because Iran, one of the biggest oil producers, is now restricted because of the new U.S. sanctions that are put on them, but also especially here in the United States, where we are seeing very tough talk by U.S. adversaries on ditching the U.S. dollar in the world market, which of course affects the petrodollar, which of course affects your purchasing power, and just economically has a really bad effect on you. So overall, just to recap, everyone else gets screwed while the people on top who manipulate these situations and these markets get rich off of it. Because ultimately, the people who really do benefit from all this really don't have any allegiance to the United States or any country, because a lot of them are predominantly just globalists. So that's just a little bit different than making America great again, to all my Trump supporting fans, which I think should put a lot of things in perspective for people out there, especially since Donald Trump and a lot of the presidents before him are ultimately just pushing towards the same agenda. While facetiously speaking, the totalitarian police state is being built all around you, restricting and taking away your human rights. Yeah, that's happening thanks to corporate giants that live off government welfare, tax incentives, and grants that are now selling their facial recognition technology to local police departments, which of course many people are calling a recipe for authoritarianism. Of course, a big red flag to a lot of people who are freedom advocates, that they say, quote, once a dangerous surveillance system like this is turned against the public, the harm can't be undone. And of course, there's already a lot of privacy concerns when it comes to Amazon, with stories like this coming out where a woman says that her Amazon device recorded her private conversations and then sent it out to random contacts. Or this story where Amazon Alexa devices are saying, quote, unplug your Alexa device right now, you're being hacked, sending a disturbing message to a Portland family that received it just weeks after installing the Amazon listening device throughout their home. Now, to some, a lot of these devices provide some convenience, but you really have to look at the bigger takeaway here. By supporting Amazon and putting a listening device in your home that listens to everything, with Amazon having contracts with the CIA and also the Pentagon. Okay, that's a little conspiratorial, but just for the very fact that supporting them also means supporting their innovations when it comes to quantum computing and artificial intelligence, which they're also developing, which, just like any technology, is sought after for military use and the harm and destructions of other human beings, especially by governments, just like we see India wanting AI weapon systems, before their next war. This is why also the Pentagon is spending $1 billion to acquire more robots. And of course, Google and Alphabet are openly participating with artificial intelligence and the Pentagon U.S. drone program. And the race for artificial intelligence is definitely a real one all around the world, but having it in private hands and enabling it with private companies, especially ones with a clear political bias and agenda, just like we have seen from Jeff Bezos, just like we have seen from Google, is just a tad bit worrying. And the media likes to engineer and invoke certain emotions from its populations in order so you just blindly go along with it, and calling for more technological intrusions in our life, just like Sean Hannity did after the tragic events in Houston, where he called for the government to monitor every single student's social media account. And that's really all being done, but it's a part of the NSA bulk data collection system, which of course prioritizes collecting all of the information instead of looking for information specifically to prevent a crime, which is officially, according to many whistleblowers and many people from the inside, what the NSA is doing. Why? Because, of course, that helps them gain more power and influence, especially in the future if someone threatens that power and influence. And a lot of these tragic events help build up to bigger budgets by the government and excuses to expand their operation. Also, in response to the tragic events that happened in Texas just last week, New York City schools are now planning to install facial recognition technology that is used by police and military inside of schools. So yeah, that's happening. And in other technocratic police state news, we got news from, quote, Team YouTube that now they are taking away the subscriptions feed away from people. And again, this is pretty much big news because when YouTube first came out, what made it special was that the most viewed video would actually be shown to you. Videos would be ranked on their viewership, on their comments, on their likes. And you could go there without any specific kind of algorithm telling you what to see. You actually got to see people you're subscribed to. YouTube took that feature away. They took away the recommended videos. No one knows how that program works at all. No one knows how the front page works. And the only thing that was recently left from YouTube that allowed people to actually go and see the people that were subscribed to was the subscription feed, which they are now messing with and saying that they are now, quote, personalizing the order instead of showing the video that was most recent that you were subscribed to with the channels, deciding for you what you should see. That was the last bit. That was totally free, which you had to go out there and search for and go look into YouTube. That is now just taken away, which again brings me to the case that I've been making for a very long time. If YouTube wants you to be popular, if YouTube wants you to get views, they will make sure you do that. If they don't like you, they will demote you, they will censor you, they will shadow ban you, and they will de-incentivize any kind of participation on their platform. And we're seeing that finalized just with YouTube's latest move. And as you know, we've been getting screwed by YouTube ever since our existence on this platform, which may have to do with us confronting Eric Schmidt at the Bilderberg meeting, but probably other things and all the powerful people we pissed off. But regardless, just know it's not just YouTube, it's also Twitter, it's also Facebook. With all their algorithms, they are the ones deciding what you see, who is popular, and ultimately what ideas get out there. And probably the ideas that I expressed in this video and all the other videos that I've been doing for years don't go along in their protocol. So, if you found this video helpful, share this video, because probably no one else will see it unless you do. And of course, check us out on WeAreChange.org and sign up on our email list in case we get totally deleted and banned from the YouTube platform, which we may start using the email list when that happens. And of course, consider voting with your dollar, as your support is the main factor to why we're able to actually still be here as an independent news organization that doesn't shill to either the left, right, or any other draconian, asinine power structure. The power really is within us, and once we realize it, all these bungholes don't stand a chance. It's really that simple, and that's why they've been taking so many measures to try to squash us, suppress us, demonetize us, and make sure that these radical ideas don't get out there. And always having that hope and optimism that this will happen. This is why, another reason, I always say, I love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching. Stay tuned for more.